Hello guys and girls. Today's lesson is on ratios, proportions, and geometric mean. So the first thing we're going to start with is a ratio. And what a ratio is basically a fraction. So it is a relationship between two quantities normally expressed as the quotient of one divided by another. Really, it's a fraction. So the ratio of A to B can be written as A over B, which is what you're probably normally used to seeing, or A is to B, and you just use a colon. If I gave you a triangle, for example, in geometry, and I said that ABC was 2 and 2 meters, and EFD was 1 and 1 meter, then if I asked you to express the ratio of ABC to DEF, which is bigger to smaller, then you would say the ratio is 2 to 1, 2 to 1, or 2 to 1. You could actually use English, but we're going to stick to 2 over 1 or 2:1 as the way we're going to write it. If I ask you to simplify a ratio, either way I give it to you, written as a colon or written as a fraction, it's going to be the same thing. The only thing you want to make sure you're doing is that the units are the same. And you don't actually need the units in the answer because a ratio is just comparing the numbers, but the problem is you want to make sure that they are in the same units to start. So, for example, we're going to have 64 meters over 6 meters. Meters are the same, so they can cross out, and then that needs to be simplified. 32 over 3, and then that's as far as 32 over 3 can go without being a fraction, without being a decimal. So leave it as 32 over 3, or if you prefer 32:3. I think most of the time we're going to end up using the fraction, but that's up to you. Here, when we get to B, the problem is 5 feet 20 inches are not the same units. So the first thing you're going to have to do is change 5 feet 20 inches. You can cross out by changing 5 feet into inches. You always want to go smaller because it's really hard to make 20 inches feet without using decimals, and we don't want decimals in our problem. So you're going to change 5 feet to inches, which comes out to be 60. And then you're going to, 60 over 20 is 3 over 1. You need the 1 because you're comparing, a ratio is comparing something. So for every 3 boys, there's 1 girl in the class, or vice versa. So you always have to include the 1 in a ratio. Take a second, pause the video, try these two. Welcome back. Hopefully you got that. When you simplify this, it's 24 over 3, which is 8 over 1, or 8 to 1. Again, you need the 1. Please don't forget it. In number 2, you had centimeters and meters. Please be careful, remembering that there's 100 centimeters in a meter. So I'm going to leave, since centimeters is smaller, I'm going to leave 150, and I'm going to change 6 meters to 600 centimeters. So it's going to be 150 centimeters over 600 centimeters, which is 1 over 4, or 1 to 4. And it's okay if the smaller number's first, or vice versa. It does not matter if it read 1 to 4 or 4 to 1. It all goes from your initial statement. If I'm comparing 150 centimeters, then that needs to go over top of 6 meters. You don't need units because I understand you're just comparing the fact that you have 150 centimeters to 6 meters. So for our next problem, it says the measures of an angle of a triangle are an extended ratio of 1 to 2 to 3. So that's comparing the 3 angles in the triangle. So if you look at this, it's basically what it's saying, that one of the angles is 1x, one is 2x, and the other is 3x. So since they're in a triangle, we should know how much they add up to, which is 180, good. So I start my equation with 1x plus 2x plus 3x equals 180 because of the triangle sum theorem. And then I add them, combine like terms, and then I divide, and x is 30. Please be careful, it does say to find the 3 angles. So your final answer is going to be 30. 2 times 30, which is 60. And then 3 times 30, which is 90. So that's your 3 angles. So just make sure you answer the question to find the angles and not just leave the answer as X. Let's take a look at our next problem, which is a little more in depth. You're planning to paint a mural on a rectangular wall. You know the perimeter of the wall, and you know that the ratio of length to width is 9 to 2, and that is extremely important. It matters which one comes first. It says length, width, 9 to 2, and that's how we're going to come up with which one's 9 and which one's 2. So if we want, let's label our rectangle length L, width W. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, it just ends up that I called these in this drawing. If length to width is 9 to 2, then length we can call 9x and width we can call 2x. So that's how you know which order you get. So if you can recall the formula of perimeter, perimeter states that it's 2L plus 2W. So make sure that you remember it's 2. So we're going to have perimeter 484 equals 2L plus 2W. If we're calling L 9x and we're calling width 2x, then we're going to fill in our equation. That's 484 equals 2 times 9x plus 2 times 2x. Biggest mistake is people forget the 2 for perimeter. I solve my equation and I get x is 22. Now, you're not close to this problem, close to being done. A lot of the time the problem will just ask for what's the length and what's the width. So if we put that in, if length is 9x and width, so therefore length's 9 times 22, so the length of this rectangle is 198. The width of this rectangle is 2x, 2 times 22 is 44. So that's our length and width. And sometimes the problem stops there, so that's all you would need to do. And I'm telling you, you'll get it wrong if you mix up length and width, which all comes from our original problem, that length to width is 9 to 2. This problem goes on and to ask you to find the area of the wall. Well, if you can recall what area is length times width, and therefore we just need to take 44 times 198, and our final answer is 8,712 square feet. How did I get feet? It was up here in the problem, so that's how we know the final answer is in feet. So the final answer is 8,712 feet. So take a second on this next slide, pause the video, and try both these problems on your own. Use your 2 previous slides if you need to figure out. In problem 3, you are only finding the length and width, so you can stop before area. And then in number 4, you're finding the measure of all 3 angles. Well, welcome back. Hopefully you realize that you remember the formula for perimeter, which is P equals 2L plus 2W. We make length 7x and we make width 5x because, again, length to width is 7 to 5. So length is 7x, width is 5x. Fill in the values, solve, x is 2. Go back and plug them in. If length is 7x, then it equals 14. If the width is 5x, then it equals 10. In number 4, they're in an extended ratio of 1 to 3 to 5, so that's basically just saying 1x plus 3x plus 5x equals 180, and 9x equals 180. So x is 20. And if that's the case, then you need to do angle 1 is 1x, which is 20. Angle 2 is 3x, which is 60. And angle 3 is 5x, which is 100. If they're in a triangle, you want to make sure that they add up to 180. So 160, 20, 180. All right, our last 2 slides have to do with proportion. And a proportion is an equation that states that 2 ratios are equal. So a proportion will always have an equal sign, and it's just showing that one proportion is equal to another. For example, if you had the fraction 1/2 equaling 5x, yes, you might already know mathematically how to solve it, but if you just look at this, 1/2 is the same as 5 over what? So that's all a proportion is saying. It's taking two ratios and setting them equal. Well, it's very easy to say, I know 1/2 equals 5 over 10, so x is 10. But if I come to this equation, well, this one's very easy too. 5 over 10 can be simplified to how much? 1/2. Well, what number over 16 can be simplified to 1/2? So it's 8. But if we look at B, you now have variables in it, or it doesn't simplify to 1/2, so what are we going to do? So what we do is, hopefully you probably remember this, is cross multiply. So we take 5 times 16 and 10 times x, which gives us 80 equals 10x, and x is 8. Be careful in the next one. When we cross multiply, it's 3 times 1y, 3y times 1, and then it's 2 times quantity y plus 1. So yes, of course, we have to distribute. So it's 3y equals 2y plus 2, y is 2. And you could go check. Is 1 over 2 plus 1, which is 1/3, is that the same as 2 over 3 times 2, which is 6? So is 1/3 equal to 2 over 6, which is also 1/3? So yes, they're equal. Yes, we know we did it right. All right, pause the video, try these 3 on your own, and then I'll show you the answers when we're done. Welcome back. Hopefully you paused the video. When I cross multiply these, I will get 16 equals, on this one, 3x equals 4 times the quantity x minus 3. 3x equals 4x minus 12. Hopefully you didn't forget minus 12. Subtract over, you do get negative 1x equals negative 12, and then x is 12. On this one, we're going to do 14 times the quantity, y minus 3 is 7y. 14y minus 42, remember to distribute. You get negative 42 equals negative 7y, y is 6. Let's just go back to number 2 and check it. 1 over 12 minus 3, so 12 minus 3, 12, 9, so this is 1/9. 4 times 3 times 12, which is 36, so is 1/9 equal to 4 over 36? Absolutely, so we know that we did it right. All right, thank you. Have a good day.